stops when he turns it off.
Something wrong with that cord. No, give me a second. Sorry.
Fixed. Oh, it's working. It's working now. Yes.
Let the record show that it is 10:02. We'll call to order the special August 21st, 2019 council meeting for the city of Durant. Please stand while Chief Hauser gives our invocation, and please remain standing while Councilman Morris leads the flag salute.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow. Heavenly Father, we thank you for again an opportunity to come before you to do the city's business, Lord. I ask that your will be installed in every heart and mind of the council, and we be one team, one mission, Lord. Do our business in a civil manner and to carry out according to your will. Lord, be with those employees who are sick and injured throughout our city, and be with their families as well. Ask for a swift healing for them, strength, and support. Lord, I ask these things in your Son's name, Jesus. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Morris,
Here.
Councilmember Shear,
Here.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Here.
Mayor Groby.
Here, we have a quorum, everyone's present. Our first order of business, number 1A, consider approval of library HVAC rooftop unit repairs. Miss Angie.
Most of y'all know me. I'm Angie Mullen. I'm the administrative assistant from the library. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the best I can. Robbie is out today and tomorrow, and so I'm happy to try to answer your questions.
The scope of the work involved, Angie, could you just talk about what's being requested?
Y'all are probably familiar with the other work that's
Can you
already
pull
been...
your mic down, yeah.
The other work that's already been done, it brought our system back up to where it needed to be, but it didn't include some individual repairs to each unit. And so this proposal is dealing with each individual unit that's on the roof. So they didn't really know about these things until they got it up and running. Then they could test it, and they discovered that these other things had to be corrected. So, and each unit will cool different parts of the building. So for instance, my office is hot still. So I hope y'all approve this so I can have air.
Angie, this encompasses all of the rooftop units?
Each one is listed. A rooftop unit 1, there's
I see 4.
there's 4 units, and it turned out that Unit 5, once they got everything up and running and could test it, Unit 5 is working. So we lucked out there. There was 1 unit that didn't need attention. And that was probably the only unit carrying us through all this time. So, but we do have air in most of the building at this point. But there is some things that it's not going to work properly till these other things are completed. They'll be putting in a new motor, looks like on rooftop unit 1. Like there's just, like rooftop unit 2, there was an exhaust fan, and so there's some new things that need to be put into those units.
That weren't put in there before?
Well,
In the
they've just,
first-
in 8 years, they've gone bad.
Okay, but I
So-
mean, in the first repairs we just finished.
Okay, the first repairs, now, I hope I'm not getting myself out on a limb, but they included a lot of different things. It was like the fire alarm, it was connected with there was like a computer system that had to be updated. So let's say, this is my understanding, so there had to be a computerized part of that. There was like equipment that needed to be done, like some duct work and some things like that. And then they got it down to these units, and now then they're trying to, and they are AON certified people. So that it took electricians, it took, there was different parts of this that had to be addressed.
And the reason we're using a company, Angie, right here in front of you.
Oh, okay.
Using this company out of Garland is because there's nobody locally that has that capability.
For 8 years, we've limped along with local people, and they did the best they could. But it actually is requiring some people with certifications with a specialized AON units.
Okay.
So they sent us letters, and I think it's been uploaded, those letters about that they weren't qualified to do the work that was needed there.
I don't, Paul, maybe you can answer this too, Angie, if you can, but I don't see any reference to like Freon or, typically when you have even your home unit worked on, usually they're either low or they add some or they whatever, but are these Freon, I guess they're refrigerant users, but
They're computerized, and we have to control those with a computer, and so it's not like your average air
Yeah.
that you'd have.
and not seeing any reference to that at all, I just, is there a chance that we may have some even more expense as far as getting them up to,
This should complete it.
it should, okay.
Mhm.
So they've probably,
They've tested it inside
Pressurized,
and out,
tested
and they've
the-
narrowed it down to
Yeah.
each unit now on the rooftop needs these things
Okay.
done to them.
good, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Mullins?
Move approval of item 1A, the library HVAC rooftop list repairs.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. I guess we're through with you. Let me see
Okay.
if this 1B, it says,
All right, thank you.
thank you so much.
Angie.
1B, consider approval of budget supplement number 001802. Do we have a
Move
motion?
approval, budget supplement 001802.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number 2, consider appointment of seventh member to Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. And do I have a motion, or is there any discussion? I believe that is Mike Ridgway.
Yes.
I make a motion, we approve Michael Ridgway for the position.
We have a motion to approve Mike Ridgway.
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Again, very pleased with the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee makeup. Yes, aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 3, consider approval of employee health and dental benefit renewals with Blue Cross Blue Shield and Vision Benefit with VSP, or take any other appropriate action. Ms. Kara.
Good morning, council members. I'm nervous, I'm sorry. We're going into our 3rd year of being fully insured. As most of you probably know, we were self-insured for several years. This is our 3rd year of being fully insured. Our broker went out for renewal rates a few months ago. Blue Cross Blue Shield came back with the best rates, as they did last year as well. Have a quick PowerPoint, it won't take too long. Overviews the changes. For medical, the total reduction in premium is 7.6%. The column shows what we paid last year, current, and the renewal column shows what next year will be. Down at the bottom, it says Insure Oklahoma subsidy. That is a state-provided subsidy for the state is helping employers offset the cost of health insurance. So a shout out to Teresa Taylor. She's been very diligent in keeping new employees informed of what the eligibility requirements are. It's a benefit to our employees because it's enabled some individuals to carry dependent coverage when they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. And last year we got $220,499 in total to offset our health care cost. And let's see, as far as dental, the underwriter for that, it went down as well, 3.79% total. See, Vision is 100% employee paid, no changes to that though. That's life insurance, it stayed the same, as well as dependent. Here's the total overview for the first year, last year, and then the new year. So over the last 2 years, we've had a reduction in cost. So are there any questions? Staff recommends approving the renewal so that we can stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield for another year.
Are there any questions?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
That's the city's premiums have obviously went down, which is great.
Right.
What about the employees' premiums individually?
The employee premiums are substantially low to begin with. It's been our effort to not make any changes to employee premiums, because if we did make any changes, it would be to increase them. But right now, with the Insure Oklahoma money that's coming in, and the fact that we're getting really good renewals, they're going to stay the same. They pay $147.09 a pay period for dependent coverage. We only have 2 tiers. It's single coverage and family coverage. So the $147.09 is whether you have a spouse or 6 dependents on there. It's the same amount. So we've looked at other tiers possibly implementing, but I don't think that it would be cost effective to anybody at this point to implement that, but it's something we'll look at in the future if it changes. Thank you.
I think to understand too, there's no cost to the employee.
If you have single coverage, there's no cost. The city pays that premium 100%.
And if they add their dependents, like you said, whether it's just a spouse or spouse and children, it's the 147 or whatever that.
147.09 a pay period, just under 300 a month.
And is vision and dental still an option in?
The dental is included with the medical, so the premiums that you saw will be together. And then vision is 100% employee paid. The city doesn't pay anything towards the vision, but it's a minimal cost. I think I have the single, and it's $4.99 a pay period, and with a spouse, I want to say it's $6.11 a pay period. Can't be exact on that, but it's minimal.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions? Are we ready for a vote? Do we have a motion?
I move we follow the recommendation of Ms. Dosh and, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
Ms. Jones. And approve the employee health and dental benefit renewal with Blue Cross Blue Shield and the vision benefit with the BSP.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Next item on our agenda, number 4, consider approval of Enterprise Fleet Management Equity Lease open-end lease of a special service/investigation vehicle. Chief.
Thank you for the opportunity. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Carrie and Teresa for all their hard work in that benefit plan. I think the city has one of the best benefits anywhere. I, for one, I can only speak for me, but Vice Mayor Brittingham, that part of our payment that we submit, it seems to be well worth it. And I'm only speaking for me, but thank them for getting us that good deal. Speaking towards the special service investigation vehicle, what we're looking at is a pickup truck for our special investigative unit out of our criminal investigation division. It's not a marked patrol vehicle. It's just a covert vehicle, if you will. There's a typo in my memo to the council on that first line where it says the Special Engagements Division would like to lease a vehicle using Enterprise Fleet Management Contract 2018-72. For the record, could I change that to 5-2 because that's actually the initial agreement with Enterprise? Not the 7-2. The 7-2 was actually where we started purchasing on the quotations. So it's actually, the agreement's 5-2. So what we'd like to do is Enterprise has given us 4 quotes. We've asked for a specific type of vehicle, and they gave us 2 quotes for 2019s, a Chevrolet and a Ford that's readily available. We take possession of almost immediately. Of course, they'd have to acquire that and then lease it to us, so it'd take a little bit of time, but we're talking about weeks. And then they've quoted a 2020 vehicle, which we would have to spec and build out. We're looking at probably 6 to 8 months, just like the Tahoes that we've done in the past. I gave all the quotes to our special investigator, and he has chosen, obviously not the lowest bid, but what he thought was the best bid, and that was the 2019 Chevrolet over the Ford. And it's based upon his decisions on the availability to place covert lighting in one model versus the other model, and then a resale value of 53% at the end of the lease versus a 50% resale at the end of the lease, and then space usability as well. And when you talk about costs, how we're going to fund this, the Special Investigations Division obviously operates off of seizure and forfeiture funds, and that's how we plan on funding at least the first year of this. We was just a recipient of equitable sharing from the United States Postal Service, a federal investigation that we were part of. They awarded us $14,000. This vehicle is roughly going to cost about $6,000 per year for the 60-month lease. And that $14,000 plus the upfit cost plus the down payment is going to be about a little over $10,000 for that first year. That federal equitable sharing money, it's best, since we report quarterly on that, to buy large purchases instead of a lot of small purchases. It's just easier to keep track of federally when we report, and we feel like that this is probably one of the best uses of those dollars. The current vehicle that we're driving is about a 2009 or 2010. I think it's a 2010 with 130,000 plus miles on it. We do plan on repurposing that vehicle into our investigative division, and the repurposing a vehicle that they're currently using into the Public Works Division. I think Marty said it might be going to a wastewater treatment plant. So we have the funding for year one. Now we're looking at years 2 through 5. I think I'd be amiss if I didn't tell you that we don't have the funding currently for years 2 through 5. Years 2 through 5 would have to be either added to the capital improvement budget, which I don't expect will happen, because we are a part of the equitable sharing agreement. And again, just like we got the $14,000 this year awarded to us from the United States Postal Service through a federal investigation that we was cooperative in. Well, actually it was our case to begin with. And the equitable sharing with the federal government on all money and asset seizures guarantees us, if it's awarded, it guarantees us a certain percentage of that money back to the agency. Currently, with our federal investigations that we have outstanding in assets, dollars and assets, we have $132,000 in federal court in the North Texas jurisdiction. And if awarded, and we do expect that it will be awarded, it was a United States Postal Service case as well, and it was actually tied to the $14,000 that was awarded already. If we're awarded that, we're probably expected to get about $66,000, and we expect that probably by the end of this calendar year or the beginning of the next calendar year. We also have $437,000 in the Eastern District of Oklahoma that's pending forfeiture right now. Indictments have been delivered, and the grand jury just needs to convene to solidify that. Once that happens, we're expected to get, and conservatively 25% in that equitable sharing agreement, about $109,000 out of those monies as well. So years 2 through 5, I fully expect that they will be funded through the equitable sharing agreement with the forfeiture and seizure money that we have outstanding. It's been seized. It's just in litigation right now, but toward the end of that litigation, and again, it's looking good for us and a couple of other agencies as well that was involved in those. So I don't expect in short that we'll have to tap into the capital improvement funds in the future, but you do need to be aware that if we're not awarded those funds, year 2 through 5 won't be funded through seizure money. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have one.
Chief, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In general, when you get some seizure money, does that funnel back to us, or does it go in a big pool somewhere? How do we
No,
control
the dollars that I'm talking about are narcotics dollars, and when they're seized, they have to go back into what we have as a drug revenue account for the city. So it goes back into the city, but into a specific drug revenue account. And then those expenditures must be funneled back into narcotics type investigations.
If we do receive a sum of money in that fashion, would that be prioritized where it would first go to this vehicle? Or could it be funneled off into something else?
No, absolutely. That's definitely the plan. And if I'm understanding you correctly, the outstanding seizure forfeiture money that we have that's pending, yes, once that comes in, that will be immediately set aside to fund the rest of years 2 through 5, definitely. That's certainly the plan.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is there a balance in that account right now?
There is a balance of about $14,500, and that's $14,040 of that was the United States Postal Service seizure money that was awarded, I believe, in March. We certainly would like to keep several $100s in there for, well, investigative purposes.
So you're saying after we take this amount out, it'll basically be broke for right now?
It will. It
Okay.
will deplete it all except for the few $100s that we would need to operate for ongoing investigations throughout the rest of the fiscal year. But, you know, what I didn't mention is we also have about $20,000 in District 19, that's Bryan County seizure forfeiture funds. And they're not as certain as some of the federal monies are. So as that trickles in, it's not a one lump sum of $20,000. It's several small cases that add up to about $20,000. So as that trickles in as well, we'll benefit off of that to continue our ongoing investigations. And then we get about 200 and some odd dollars put into that revenue fund for some restitution monies. So operational, I think, will be okay. That $14,000, again, 10,000, a little over 10,000 of that would go for the lease for the remainder of this fiscal year, the down payment, or what they call, let me find it. They call it a capitalized price reduction. It's a down payment, in short, what it is. And then the upfit cost to put lighting in the equipment of about $1,200 as well. And out of that roughly $14,000 that we have sitting there, I plan on using about $3,900 of that to offset the cost of upfitting of the 7 vehicles that you guys approved last council meeting, because one of the specialized K-9 unit, its upfit cost come in at an estimate way above what I expected, and that'll offset that and get it back down in line with the rest of them. So yes, that'll pretty much deplete that $14,000 award that we got from the United States Postal Service, and we'll be able to probably close that reporting period out.
Chief, 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
Worst case scenario, years where the second or third year and the funding is not available. I mean, what do you do? And then the second question is, as I reviewed that, the quote was based, I think, on 5,000 miles on an annual basis. That doesn't sound like many miles.
You know, it doesn't, and you know, I've questioned Enterprise on their lease quotes in the past, you know, and it doesn't appear that the dollars change based on the miles, because I know it says 5,000. I'm trying to look at it up there. I don't think there's any penalty to go over, and if it does, we can certainly get that change. It looks like, well,
I saw, I think, 45
4
cents.
cents, 45 cents maybe.
Yeah.
I can certainly look into that. but
Sounds
in the-
like you're
in the
averaging
past,
at
they
least
certainly
10,000
didn't.
plus a year, so it may not be a significant dollar amount, but 5,000 miles, you're gonna hit that.
It
6
hit that
months.
pretty quick. It looks like we're averaging, well, even at the 130,000, if it's a 9-year vehicle, you're looking at a little over 15,000
Yeah.
miles a year.
And then again, years 2, 3, 4, 5, funding's not available. I mean, I think I
Roughly-
know what you can do,
Absolutely. It's roughly about a $6,000 a year cost at that point.
but what do you do with the vehicle? I mean, do you terminate the lease or what? if
I
you
would
have no funding?
suggest we go ahead and keep it for the $6,000 a year. That seems minimal for us to come up with, even if we had to, you know, in our future requests,
You answered my
5 versus 4.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I would not recommend turning it back for that minimal cost.
Yeah, the over mileage charge is only 4.5 cents a mile, what he said.
That's a very minimal charge on an auto lease.
Yeah.
I know if you do just a personal lease, it's
Sorry,
it's
I read
many
that as
times.
45.
Yeah, many times that sometimes. So that's a pretty minimal over mileage.
Well, certainly if the
Right.
council's agreeable to that minimal mileage charge, okay, I'll accept, but maybe you can give me the leeway to negotiate that down to 0, which I feel pretty confident about.
You're almost there at 4.5
Yeah,
cents.
absolutely.
Zero's better than 4.5.
I'll certainly give it a shot.
Either that or raise the mileage. See if they would
Absolutely.
raise the mileage from up to 10 or 12.
With your permission and, you know, approving it upon contingent on further negotiations with them, I will certainly ask, and they've been very easy to work with.
Okay. there any other questions? Are we
Move
ready for a
approval.
motion?
Move approval of the Enterprise Fleet Management Equity Lease, open-end lease of a special service investigation vehicle with the contingent upon Chief Hauser's final negotiations on the topics we talked about as far as mileage and cost for any mileage over.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you guys all for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Number 5, consider approval of change of signatory for banking transactions. Paul?
Yeah, I recommend that we follow the recommendation here to change the signatories on our transactions. We have two-person signatories, and Tim Rundle would be taken off and replaced with James Dalton immediately, and the other one would be that Judy Siemens would be taken off at the end of business on August 30th and replaced with Ann Chenlai.
Is there any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the changes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Steve, did you second?
Second.
Okay. Cindy, would you record the vote?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 6 on our executive session, do I have a motion that we go into executive session at this time?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Cindy, would you record the vote, please?
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. We are now in executive session. I will be.